Is our first monthly community of practice, and I'm excited to get us started. The topic today is going to be on the community school coordinator key roles. This topic was decided based on feedback from all of our grantees. So during the summer, we collected a needs assessment from all of you to determine what exactly you needed extra support on. And that's how we've chosen our topics for all of our community of practice meetings. So thank you for being here. If you could all please sign in. You can use the QR code, the bit.ly link, or the link in the chat that Jennifer is going to put in there right now. We do keep close records of all of attendance from grantees, so your signing in is greatly appreciated. And I'll go ahead and just give you about a minute to do that. And then Jennifer, if you can give me a thumbs up when we're ready to move on, that would be greatly appreciated. Those of you that are just joining us, if you can please sign in, that would be wonderful. All right, I'm going to move on to the next slide, but we can continue to put that sign-in sheet in the chat as we move through the presentation slides. All right, we're going to go ahead and start with presentations. I'm Ashley Selk, and I'll be your facilitator today. My core values are family, collaboration, and kindness. And I'm excited to just move through this journey with all of you and offer you support. I'm going to go ahead and pass it to my colleague, Jennifer.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Sarhadi, and my core values are adventure, belonging, and knowledge. And I also will be posting things in the chat, and please keep your eyes on the chat. If you have any questions, please message me and we'll get you through it.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right, and then we have our fabulous colleagues that are serving on our RTAC team with us here today. And so I would like to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. Herminia, will you take it away?
Of course. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Herminia Cervantes. I'm also a proud member of the RTAC team, and I have the honor of being connected and serving the grantees in Monterey County. And I'll pass it over to Junue.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Junue Partida, RTAC team member, and I am serving Santa Barbara County. Welcome.
Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate your support. And last but certainly not least, our fearless leader, Dr. Ernesto Vela, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Student Services here at Monterey County Office of Education. And he has been our main support as we embark on this community schools journey. Dr. Vela, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ashley. First of all, thank you to our RTAC team for bringing us together. I just want to say good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are truly in a awesome place here at the county office and serving all of you. That is our primary objective, to give you all of the resources, tools, space to go forward in this wonderful work. We are going around saying that we are not experts by any means, but I think collectively the expertise is definitely in the room, and it is our job to highlight those best practices, share them with everyone, and to go through this journey with all of you. So welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Vela. All right, I'd like to start our time with a land acknowledgement. So today I'm joining you from the Monterey County Office of Education in Salinas, California, and I would like to acknowledge today's session is being held on the ancestral lands of the Estland people. We pay our respect to the elders, both past and present. If you know the names of the Native peoples whose lands you're learning on today, you're welcome to bring them into the chat. I'm going to take a moment of silence for you to do so. All right, you can continue to share as I move through the slides. If you are not familiar with the Native peoples whose lands you're learning on, I do encourage you to research that after our session. Thank you so much, everyone. All right, so our community of practice norms are as follows. I want to get these covered before we dive in deep to this work. The first one is that I invite you all to engage fully. Today's session is going to be me doing a little bit of explanation and overview, and then a Q&A panel, kind of case study style. But I encourage you all to please share your thoughts, ideas, questions in the chat. Your engagement is greatly appreciated as we move through this session. And I'll also invite you to take care of yourself. Please feel free to get up, grab something to drink, move around. I want this to be a really comfortable space for all attendees. So we're doing some transformative work. So I invite you all to be ready for a mind shift. I hope you hear something today in our session that helps you develop additional thoughts and maybe totally changes your mind. And then I invite you to share your expertise and ahas in the chat as we go through this session. We have a lot of years of experience in this room, and so we'd love to hear your expertise, but also your ahas. The purpose of our time today is to develop a clear understanding of the roles and responsibilities of the community school coordinator. Again, this was based on feedback from all grantees. And then second, to highlight one of our districts in the region that's really excelling in the CCSPP framework. As we move through these community of practices, month after month, we would like to highlight all of you. We know that there's great work being done out in the field, and so you will be asked to be highlighted in one of these community practices, and so be ready for that. All right. So I want to give you just an agenda preview. Jennifer is going to go ahead and paste the agenda in the chat for all of you. But I just want to give you an overview of what we're doing before we get started. We've already gone through our opening routine. I'm going to do a community school coordinator roles explanation, and it's going to be grounded in the framework. So on the agenda, I have attached for you the community school framework flip book, which I strongly encourage you to do a deep dive in when we're done with this session. The areas of the framework that I'll be covering are the 4 proven practices, and then the key roles. And then we will do a Q&A, community school coordinator case study. On page 3 of your agenda, you have a graphic organizer that gives you an opportunity to add notices and wonders, like a thought catcher. So please feel free to do that as we move through this session. And then we'll close with reflection and then a survey. The survey is really greatly appreciated. We do read all feedback and modify as needed. And as we're getting started, we really do need your feedback to make these the best use of time. So at this time, you all have the agenda in the chat. In the chat. And if you would like, I encourage you to share what you're most looking forward to in our session today. Do a quick agenda preview. Give you a minute to add that to the chat. All right, thank you, everyone. Please feel free to continue to add what you're most looking forward to as I move to the next slide. I'd like to do a grounding activity to get to know you a little bit better and for us all to know what regions we have represented here today. So we are going to use the poll feature to do this, and I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. The first question is, are you a homebody or a social butterfly? I'd love to hear from all of you. All right, about 5 more seconds. All right, and the results are a little bit of both. Can I just get a quick thumbs up in the chat box? Can you see the results on your end? Is it working? Okay, cool. Excellent. All right, little bit of both. What a nice mix. Okay, and our next question is, which county do you represent? So who do we have representing here today? This is exciting. I'm going to close it in 5 seconds. All right, and the winner is Santa Barbara, 41%. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right. Hold on just a second. All right, and our next question is, we just want to get an idea of how many folks in this space have completed the needs and assets assessment. Oh, okay, interesting. All right. So we have some that are in progress, many no, not yet, but that's okay. We're going to offer you support and talk about it a little bit today and encourage you to get started on that important step. All right, and here's a very important question. Do you have a site coordinator for CCSPP? Have you hired a community school coordinator? All right, we're just waiting on a couple more responses. Interesting mix. Okay, hopefully today you leave with, this is my next step to find a community school coordinator. And our final question is, what is your role? Gives us an idea of who's in the room. All right, we have a lot of directors and coordinators and assistant superintendents and managers. I'm going to go ahead and stop the poll. Thank you so much in engaging in this grounding activity. So happy to have many different roles and counties represented here today. All right, so I'm going to dive into kind of an overview of the community school coordinator. This is a foundational part of your work. And having a community school coordinator is grounded in research. So on page 12 of the community school framework flip book, you're going to see the 4 proven practices. And one of them, which is going to be our focus today, is the community school coordinator. But I want to just address these 4 proven practices really quickly. So as school districts and sites have implemented versions of community schools across the nation. Like, this isn't new work. It's been going on for a really long time. There are approaches and practices that have been really successful in diverse communities and school sites. California community schools should both attend to research and listen to interest holder voices to confirm appropriate best practices rooted in the ethos of the specific school community. So we all come from different school communities, and it's really important that it's rooted in the ethos of those. So there are a small set of proven practices that all California community schools should adopt and adapt to meet the needs of their school. And again, this is based on research, this is based on best practice, and this information has been collected from schools that have been implementing community schools across the nation for a long time. So one of the 4 proven practices is the community school coordinator. And there are many models for staffing this community school coordinator for success. All of the districts and schools are different. But all of the models must and should include a coordinator. And the primary responsibility would be the overall implementation of like the processes, programs, partnerships, and strategies at the school site. While districts and schools will approach budgeting and staffing totally differently, the essential practice is that a discrete position is a threshold for community school success. And so, as I said, this is grounded in research. It's very important for the work. And I encourage you all to, if you have not already done so, start really brainstorming about how you're going to move forward with hiring a community school coordinator. These are some of the key roles and some of the key roles that we're going to be addressing in our case study Q&A today. So conducting the comprehensive school community needs and assets assessment, key role of a community school coordinator. Improving and empowering authentic family and community engagement in the languages spoken in the community. Developing designs and strategies for relationship-centered schools that can sustain a positive climate and inclusive restorative practices. Developing expanded learning models that use school and community resources to enrich students' learning opportunities and remove obstacles to learning. Establishing shared decision-making structures, processes, and protocols that ensure students, families, educators, and community members collaborate on the decisions that most affect the conditions for powerful teaching and learning. And then the final one that we're going to address in our Q&A is creating community partnerships. There is a comprehensive list of key roles for all of the stakeholders in this work on page 15 and 16 of the Community Schools Framework Flipbook. And that's what we're going to be referring to. All of the talking that we're going to do today is grounded and rooted in the framework of community schools. And without further ado, I am thrilled to introduce Julio Castro. I had an opportunity to meet with Julio last week at the community center where he's housed, and it is clear that there is some great work being done. He is a veteran of 5 months as a community school coordinator, which is a really long time in this role. Let me introduce you to him. So Julio Castro currently serves as the community school coordinator for the Alisal Union School District in Salinas, California. Julio earned his bachelor's in arts from California State University, Monterey Bay, and his master's of public administration from the Mulberry Institute of International Studies in Monterey. Julio is passionate about education and worked for over a decade at California State University, Monterey Bay in the International Education Programs and College Support Program. Julio volunteers with nonprofit organizations centered around youth development and higher education. And as a community school coordinator, Julio is supporting the planning and implementation of the community school strategy. He's working really closely with staff, parents, and students all across the district, and this was very evident in our conversations on Friday. Julio was born and raised in Salinas, California, and promoted from Cesar Chavez Elementary School at the Alisal Union School District. So he's back serving where he was educated. And I think that that's very special part of our community here in the Central Coast. All right. Julio, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let you take over.
Wonderful.
And then we'll start with the first question once you have your screen shared. I want to encourage you all to engage in the chat as we're going through this Q&A. Even just like ahas that come up, please feel free to share them.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to be sharing, I think, a very important flyer, which kind of started everything for us here. It was the first thing that the first event that we had was a schools community and parent meeting, and we're going to be revolving around that. But I think we can start with the questions, and I'm going to be sharing materials as we talk about them.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Can you please introduce yourself and then a little bit about the community that you're supporting?
Yes, so once again, my name is Julio Castro. I am the community school coordinator here at the Alisal Union School District, and we get to be supported by the Monterey County Office of Education, Regional Technical Assistance Center. We are located in Salinas, California. We are a 10-minute drive from the Monterey County Office of Education, so we're very lucky in that way where we could have that relationship very close by. Our district is 12 schools and 1 virtual academy, all TK through 6th grade. So that's the age group that we're working with closely. If you're not very familiar with our specific community, we are a strong farm working community, and many of the families that we serve are migrant or immigrant families who come from low income backgrounds, much like myself, right? I come from a family of farm workers. So those are the kind of students that we're working with. And so anyone who works in our district is passionate about working with this specific group, because you have to be very sensitive with our community.
Thank you so much for sharing that introduction. So Julio, a critical role of the community school coordinator is to conduct a comprehensive school and community needs and assets assessment. Can you please share how you've engaged in this work?
Yeah, so we are in the final steps of finalizing the needs and assets assessment. Our plan is to roll that out by October 1st. So that we can collect responses from staff, parents, and students. We are going to have 3 different surveys. With the students, we're calling them empathy interviews, right? So they're a little bit less intimidating. And we actually used a template provided by MCOE, which, as I mentioned, is our Regional Technical Assistance Center. And we adapted the template slightly to meet the needs of our school. And we also incorporated a couple of items. For example, there we have the family resource centers, one of which I live in, where they have recently conducted a survey for parents specifically, and I made sure to include the language that they were included so that we were collecting the same amount of information so that we can collectively exchange data back and forth.
Thank you so much for sharing that. The next question is, how have you approached family and community engagement in the languages spoken in the community?
Yeah, so for us, a strong Spanish-speaking population, we have, out of our 12 schools, about 9 of them are heavily Spanish-speaking. The other 3 also have a lot of Spanish speakers, but we do have students that come from different languages, different backgrounds. But all our materials by nature have to be done in English and Spanish. And I can pull up that flyer, that first community flyer that we have, because we needed to be, right? As we did a call for parents, we wanted to make sure that the flyer was available for both, because if a parent looks at a flyer in English, and as I was handing out flyers myself, I did notice sometimes I was passing it out in the wrong side in English. And so if a parent saw that flyer and wasn't able to understand it, they would kind of dismiss it. But I made sure to always pass out the English side on one side, the Spanish on the other, so that they can see that. And all of our materials, again, have to be in Spanish. As you can see here, we noted that there would be childcare available. We have to make sure that there was the meeting was available. We do most of our parent meetings later in the evening because our parents have told us they can't make it if it's earlier than that. And even though we schedule them at 6, some of them are even later than that, just because, you know, parents are coming in, and we get the fun started right when the parents get to come. We also have a translation available on site, and that's something that all of our parents know. So our meetings are actually conducted in Spanish. So we have we make sure that actually the English speakers are the ones that usually have the devices because their translation is being translated live for them.
I'm going to go rogue for just a minute and ask a quick follow-up question, which is, what was your process for getting these flyers and this information out to parents and families?
Yes. So one of my fears was planning this event and not having parents show up. And even the day when the event actually came up and the event happened, a lot of our fellow staff and admin, I'm new to the district. I started here in the district when I came for the community school coordinator. We're pretty impressed by the number of parents that came. And they asked, what did you do to get this many parents here for your first meeting, right? And so I did what I had been doing in my previous position, which is being physically everywhere I could be. The school bell rings about 8:10, 8:15, right? I was there at 7:45, 7:50 at the different sites with the flyers, handing them out. I had our parent education specialist who already have a connection with parents flyering out with me after school. We know the parents get there for pickup a little bit early, sometimes even half an hour earlier. So that's where we were targeting parents and inviting them, verbally inviting them, saying, Los invitamos, we invite you to come to our community and parent meeting, and sending out the flyer as well through the principals, through the schools that were printed out. And so we went with the students, and the students took their flyer home, and we were very happy with the attendance. But it took a lot of actually physically passing out flyers because some of our parents they might have access to technology, but they might not be able to navigate those different systems of communications. But you have to pick up your child, right? That's something that you do. So that's where I knew they would be. So we were coming there.
That's so important, meeting people where they're at. So thank you so much for sharing that. I have one more follow-up question about that. What was the outcome of your parent meeting?
So we wanted to make sure that and the community school strategy has been before my time, right? It's been a talk, it's been a conversation, the applying for the grant, it's been happening. But we really wanted to make sure that our first big community and town meeting was inclusive of everybody. We wanted to make sure that a year from now, 2 years, 5 years from now, when we are 5 years ahead into the community school strategy, everyone had an invitation, right? And everyone felt like they had a part, or at least the opportunity, and it will continue to do so, right? As we do the needs and assets assessment through surveying, we're going to be putting it on our website, we're going to be sending it out, we're going to be printing it out so that it is accessible, because we want everyone who plays a part, which we know everyone in the school plays a part of community schools. And a big part of the initial steps is helping them understand that they already are playing that role. And the outcome was parents coming. We have a shared vision. We have a document. It's actually, I see that our PIO is here as well. It's something that we had responses in English and Spanish. I translated both of them. It's now a document. And so we have a foundation document of what we envision for community schools, and it's going to continue growing, and all of that's going to be there accessible on the website. So our parents can review back and we can look back at the progress that we've made.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to pause from our scripted questions and just move to 2 chat questions really quickly that I'm going to ask you. So the first one is, hi, Julio, you mentioned a student survey that focused on empathy interviews. Did you also survey parents and teachers?
Yes, so our staff survey is going to be for everyone, for parents as well. But we also, for example, today we were talking. We were in a big meeting about chronic absenteeism, and we know our attendance clerk have a lot to contribute to that specific topic. So we know there's staff everywhere across the campus that are, in addition to teachers, that have something to contribute, so that we can identify what are our strengths and what are some of the things that they believe we are working on. So definitely, we want them to participate in those responses. Same thing with the parents. We need the parents involved, and we want their input, and they have a lot to share, and they are very invested in the community school strategy because their children are enrolled in our schools.
Thank you. I'm going to take one more question from the chat, which is, hi, Julio, is your role at the school site or district level?
So we and actually just again, our PIO slash grant writer Claudia, we were talking about that earlier today, and Claudia mentioned that there was a conversation that was had of where are they going to place a community school coordinator. So this conversation was had before my time, but it was very intentionally decided to sit at the district level. So it is a management position here at the Alice Union School District, but my office is physically at one of the 3 family resource centers that we have. And the goal is to be everywhere, right? From the district level to the resource center, actually physically at the schools, as I mentioned, but spending a lot of time at the school so that we have that presence for the community schools role, because the centers are being run by the managers, right? But becoming that bridge is very important for us, for our community school coordinator, to talk about the resources that we already have and then bring them to the schools and at least bring awareness of what we're doing and then align it with what the community school strategy is.
Thank you. And Julio, are you in planning or implementation?
We're in the planning stages.
Wow, what a great start you've all gotten in the planning stages. How many community schools received the CCSPP grant? I wonder if you could speak to how many schools you're specifically supporting.
Of course. So in the planning grant, we decided that 4 schools, we identified 4 of our 12 schools that we wanted to focus on, with the plan to expand the community school strategy to all 12 schools. And something that we decided when it comes to that needs and assets assessment, the survey, we first thought, okay, we're going to be surveying the 4 community schools, but we decided we already created the survey. We're going to spread that to all 12 schools. So we're inviting all 12 schools, the staff, the students, and the parents to help us by providing that feedback. So we're opening up to everybody. So again, the plan is to spread to all 12 schools. So why not start now, right?
Thank you so much. I'm going to move back to our questions and then I'll move back to the chat because I'm seeing some more questions come in that I'll address in just a minute. And as I'm going through these questions with Julio, please feel free to share your ahas or your questions in there and we'll address those. So you've been working closely with school staff, including principals. We talked about that on Friday. Can you please share how you've collaborated worked with them to develop relationship-centered schools with a positive climate that is inclusive, or how you plan on doing that?
Yeah, so being new to the district, it was very important for us to conduct frequent site visits to the schools. And I report to the director of Pupil Personnel Services, who was a principal at the schools, who used to be a teacher at the school. So that was kind of my introduction, right? We had someone from the district that was walking me physically to the schools. We were setting up meeting greets with the parents, with the assistant principals, to make sure that we were very present, right? So that I didn't live just, again, at the district or at the centers, but actually being at the schools. I also started joining committees where I could be next to the principals. I talked about the chronic absenteeism, so I did join the SART team and helping with that with that chronic absenteeism, so that the principal and the assistant principal see me as one of their own, right, as part of the school. And very happily now I keep getting invited to other things, right, because we're on the ground together, right? And by being in that committee, I can divulge information to other schools because our principals they have time to collaborate, right? It's already there, but they don't have the day-to-day. They're all tackling similar things like chronic absenteeism. And when I sit on a committee in one and another school, I can pass information in between. And I make it a point to attend all the school events, like the back to school night. We were there passing out flyers, inviting parents to come. I'm inviting myself to the staff meetings and talk about community schools, right? Even if it's showing that 2-minute clip of what is community schools, I'm including that in my survey actually. And I think I might show it later where you could, not the video, but at least where you can see the survey, because as much as we've done a lot of conversations, a lot of people have been spreading the community school word. It might not be clear to everybody because everyone has a lot of things that they're focusing on. So we have to keep stressing that. And we have our coffee clutches with our parents that are run by site admins, by principals. They're the ones that lead them and they have different topics. Those are typically in the morning. Some of them do them in the evening as well. And I'm going to those as well. I'm being present, trying to be there.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we've been doing education in silos for so many years, and it's important to create that mind shift of how we're going to change that. And I think the community school coordinator is fundamental in doing that. And so thank you for sharing what you've been doing so far. All right, so can you share your plans to develop extended learning models to enrich student learning opportunities and remove those obstacles to learning?
So it's a very exciting time in our district where we've revamped. And it's been coming, right? But this year the expanded learning program after school has changed quite a lot, right? And I think a lot of districts and schools have moved away from the traditional after school, you get your homework done and get a little bit of extra support. So yes, it does have that as well, but we're also partnering with a lot of community partners and organizations to bring in different things. In additional to homework and tutoring, they're bringing in theater, yoga, art, math, science, physical activities, music, etc. And with the goal to expose students to all the different activities, right? So there's a lot of new partnerships, there's a lot of new resources, and we're at this point in time, we don't want to change what we have just changed, right? But something that we identified is staffing, right? Even though we are fully staffed in the after school programs, you can always use more staff, especially for that one-on-one student contact. So I actually just came from CSU Monterey Bay. That's where I was working. So I had a lot of connections there. We all have a lot of connections here in Salinas through Monterey County because the university spreads itself out in the community quite nicely. And the service learning department is every single CSUMB student has to take a lower and upper division class to get service learning 20 to 30 hours. So what we decided to do with the expanded learning is get more of that staffing. So I went to CSUMB to their virtual partner fair. I went to their in-person partner fair to get those volunteers, right, who are doing that learning by coming into the schools. And so we're recruiting service learners, and we want to improve that partnership because it's a position that we don't have to pay for, right? Because they're getting academic credits, they're getting 20 to 30 hours. So even if we get 5 students, that's 100 hours that our students get with more one-on-one attention. And it's something that doesn't have, it's a partnership that doesn't cost us, and the students are getting the credit that they want. And so when we don't have a limit for service learners, we have 12 sites. So we tell them, if commuting is an issue, I will take 5 of you, right, per site. If we can take 10, really, we'll take all of them. But I'm sure the department wants to spread the love in the community. But we're removing those barriers by making it very inclusive, inviting, and even like re-looking at the partnership that we had with the university and some of the requirements that we realized we might not need. So it might discourage students from picking us as a site. We're revamping that to make sure that it goes away.
Wow, that's a real sustainability plan. As an instructor at CSUMB and also a former service learning instructor, I know how important it is for students to have placements that are meaningful. And so I'm happy to hear about that partnership. I encourage you all, if you're looking for a sustainability plan like this, to also tap into your local community college. I also teach a service learning course at our local community college. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I have a question in the chat that I want to get to, and it's going back to the needs and assets assessment. So did you have completely different surveys for students, community members, and parents, or did they have one survey to collect all the data?
There are 3 slightly varying surveys, and they ask slightly different things. For the children, it's going to be a lot shorter, and it's not going to be as intense. But for the other 2, they are a little bit longer, and they are asking slightly different things. Like, for example, more open-ended questions. What do you envision for a community school? We can ask children that, and we might get some pretty cool responses. But I'm having less open-ended questions for students and more of a pick from the list type of thing. But we definitely are being very intentional about what we ask. And actually, that's the final piece that we haven't finalized the student one. That's the one that I'm most excited / nervous about, because I really want it to be perfect. And we want it to be very intentional about what we're asking. But yeah, and I'm happy to share that. I can forward it to the RTech, MCOE RTech, and you can pass it on, because we are going to be sharing it in digital form, but we're also going to be printing it out so that parents can. But yes, different surveys.
I'm sure that would be greatly appreciated for everybody in attendance. And I also want to let you all know that we do have surveys that we can share with you as well. So the next question is around shared decision making. It's a really essential part of this work. Can you tell us how you and your district plan on establishing shared decision making strategies or structures?
Yeah, so I mentioned the open invite to come to our community schools meeting and also into any of our future events. But we are actually forming our CPT, our core planning team, and our EPT, our extended planning team. And it's going to be inclusive of of a lot of different folks, from principals, assistant principals, parents, to teachers, to parent education specialists. We have counselors, we have social workers, the directors of the family resource centers. We're kind of making sure that everyone who touches a different population and works with a different population within the schools has access to it. And so it's going to be kind of a very important, we're hoping to have our first CPT EPT meetings in November, after we have responses to our surveys and our needs analysis assessment, so that we can build off of that. We already have input, insight, feedback. Now, next step is, what are we collectively going to decide to do? Because it's not going to be the community school coordinator deciding this is what we should do. It's not going to be the principal. It's not going to be our superintendent. It's going to be, what have we looked at? What direction do we want to go? And the people who are in the extended planning team and core planning team, how are we going to move forward with it, so that it is a collective shared decision-making process, and it's not one person deciding that what to do, right?
Thank you. That's really important and essential to this work. How have you approached creating community partnerships?
Yeah, so as part of that needs and assets assessment, we have a question of, what are some of our assets? What are some of the partnerships that you strongly see? We have a lot of existing partnerships throughout the district, right? And not all the partnerships are at every single school site. So the partnerships are ones that, the way we operate is, principals and site admins decide what they want on their campus, or what they want to opt out of based on their needs, right? Because we have 12 schools, very different needs. So for example, this week I was at a restorative justice partners meeting that 2 of our schools have, and I wanted to know more about it. So I asked if I could listen in on the orientation, right? What is restorative justice partners, and what are they doing at our schools? So that when I go to another school in another meeting, and if I'm listening in and I hear that they need something that we're offering at another school, we can make that connection, make that contact. So a lot of partnerships, organizations reach out to our director of people personnel services, who I report to. And so the thing that we do is we set up a meeting and we learn more about the services, and knowing what we know about what's going on at the schools. If it's service that we want to connect them with, we make that connection. If the partnership is a good fit, because we do take the time to vet it, we don't just want to add resources that we think are a good idea. We want buy-in, right? So if there's a good fit and there's some interest, then we move forward with that partnership. But it's very important to take the time to explore the partnerships and not jump into them, especially when there are partnerships that are offering things that other partnerships are already doing. I'm sure they have a lot of wonderful things to contribute, but if we already have a partnership with them through the district, then it's easier to bring them into a different site, because there's always value in the different partnerships and what they have to bring. But and maintaining contact with partnerships that we say, hey, maybe it's not the time, but let's revisit within a year from now. And so we keep that list very organized. And again, even there might not be an interest now, but it may be coming. So having that transparency as well with potential partnerships, because we want to make sure that they see us as a potential partner and not someone that didn't showcase interest.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that follow-up piece is so important as well. So I'm going to move to our final planned question, and then we'll move to the chat and then conclude. So can you share how you have built capacity through professional development opportunities? Do you have any must-attend PDs to recommend for folks that are community school coordinators, or folks that are in the process of hiring community school coordinators, or resources to build capacity?
A must. So again, coming in through to the K through 12, the concept of the MTSS framework was very new to me. It's something that I kept hearing over and over. And of course I asked, and I attended a local an MTSS conference training here in Monterey. And I also attended the MTSS summit in Southern California. And that's where it connected, right? Where especially that bigger one, because it was new to me, and I thought everyone else, I thought, man, everyone else is probably super versed in it. Like, how do I ask without, like showcasing that I don't know exactly what's going on? But it was perfect because even though here they might be able to explain how MTSS works with their position and in relation to what they're doing, at the MTSS conference in Anaheim, they had a whole track on community schools. So it wasn't me inserting myself into this conversation and trying to decide how it fit with community schools, but there was a track on community schools at the MTSS conference that kept telling us, right, community school coordinators, how is this, how what are the things that you should keep in mind as you're implementing the community school strategy, planning and implementing the community school strategy. So that's definitely a must. It really a lot of like blurry gray things went away, lifted after I went to that conference. And next month, I am planning on attending that PBIS conference, which is one that we decided as community school coordinator is a very, very important one because a lot of our role is working with the counselors, and the counselors at our schools are really take the lead in the PBIS strategy. So in order for us to fully understand, other than knowing that it is a concept and a store, really attending the conference, I hope is going to do the same thing that it did at MTSS. The counselors have been my into the school. The counselors know all the students, they know all the staff. So I tag along quite a lot with the counselors. They invite me. At first, I was inviting myself. Now they invite me to their different events. Even if I'm not there at the entire event, just looking at what they're doing. And again, bringing it, they connect themselves quite nicely, but looking at what can be done at another schools or what do I hear over here that I can bring to you. It's very, very important.
Thank you for sharing. So MTSS and PBIS have been great. Thank you so much. This world of acronyms that we live in. I'm glad that you were able to build capacity through those. And then I just want to give a quick shout out to Anaheim Union High School District. If any of you have an opportunity to get there to check out their deep dive learning lab, I really strongly encourage it. I know that I had a mind shift from attending that, and it'd be great for y'all to bring a team if you're able. All right. Final question from the chat. When you apply for CCSPP implementation, will you hire a site community school coordinator for each site?
That's a conversation that we're currently having of what that's going to look like so that we could get that support, because that is the goal, right? To have one per site. Even if it's not a coordinator, but maybe a liaison. So that's something that we're talking about, and we're going to continue talking about, especially after we look at what the needs and the needs are. If the needs are heavily focused in one area, then we maybe need to either like thematically assign folks, or we need to, have that one person per site. That would be the dream. That would be awesome, right? That would be the goal. How we move forward with that, that's conversation that we're currently having.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, for letting us highlight you today. And thank you for sharing your expertise that you have gained in the last 5 months. Attendees, would you join me in the chat, just sharing gratitude to Julio for sharing his knowledge with us today. And thank you so much for your time. And we would be happy to share the needs and assets assessment that you created. And thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you.
All right. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next step, which I think is really important, and that's just a time of reflection. So I invite you to identify your insights and biggest takeaways from the community of practice today. Please consider your ahas, like what's going on in your brain. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the chat. I encourage you to do so that we can all engage together. Or on your agenda on the final page, you have a reflection box, but we're not done yet. I've got a couple more things very important announcements that I want to share with you. So I'm just going to be quiet for about 2 minutes, and I'm going to give you all an opportunity just to think about your insights and biggest takeaways. I would love to see your thoughts in the chat. All right, keep your thoughts coming. I'm going to go ahead and give you all about 1 more minute before I move on to the next slide to share your ahas or biggest takeaways. All right. I want to share with you some updates from the RTAC team and also from CDE. We have some upcoming events. October 4th and 18th, we're going to be holding Zoom office hours. This is an opportunity for you to come and get your questions answered, to just chat one-on-one with us, to be thought partners. So I encourage you all to join us if you have additional questions for us. On October 25th, we are going to be holding our second monthly community of practice, which is going to be focused on the needs assessment. October is going to be the release of the RTAC newsletter. So this will be an opportunity to highlight our grantees and then also to share important information with everyone. Then in November, we're going to embark on site visits. So we want to see your schools. We want to see your great work in action. We want to reflect with you, and we want to, encourage you and empower you in this work. And then some important due dates. So November 13th, the CCSPP Cohort 3 Implementation RFA will be released. If you are in planning cohort 2, you can apply for the cohort 3 implementation RFA. And I know that we've got many districts that are going to be going for it. And then November 30th, and I don't have details on this, that can be found through CDE, we'll be reporting for cohort 1 implementation. And then in February, the implementation grant application will be due for cohort 3. And then June 30th, reporting for cohort 2 implementation is due. And if you have any questions for us around these due dates or around reporting, please feel free to come and visit us at our office hours. And then our final piece for today, and probably the most important thing for us as presenters and facilitators of learning, is collecting your feedback. Jennifer is going to go ahead and paste the survey. Please, please, please don't leave without completing it, because we do need to improve our practice and provide for all of you a really engaging, enriching experience. And so your feedback is greatly appreciated and needed. So before you depart, please complete that. And once you've completed the survey, I want to give you a warm goodbye and a thank you so much for joining us. And please know that we're a phone call and email away, and we are here to support you in anything that you may need. We all look forward to building strong partnerships with all of you, and also in the future creating networking opportunities for you all to get to know different county offices and districts. So thank you so much for joining us. And it was great to see you all today.